The Oklahoma State Cowboys came into Morgantown, and instead of cowboying up, it was Cowboys down, baby, as the Mountaineers leave the Coliseum with an 85-67 victory in a Big 12 battle. This is Couz.
And I'm Mountaineer Paul.
And we present to you
Hoops from the Hills.
And we're live. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. You've got Couz and Mountaineer Paul live. And according to Cole D here, our loyal listener, he says it doesn't get any better. That's not my words. It's Cole's words. What's up, Cole? Thanks for hopping on here, my friend. But, guys, what we want to do is bring you tonight a recap, basically, of the Mountaineers' beatdown of the Cowboys last night in Morgantown. Paul, what were your initial thoughts on the game, man?
Team was back as against the wall, you know. It was nice to see all the major players step up and play well. And it was nice to see a Mo McGee sighting. But, you know, Erik played really well, streaky, but well. I was really impressed with Tre, obviously, and it's just like Bob said in the post-game press conference. He hit a couple outside, and so they put somebody smaller on him, and then they backed him inside and scored over the top. And when Tre's on, he's one of the bigger mismatches in the Big 12. It's just unfortunate that he himself has been streaky since the first, 12 games. He was on fire. And then since then, he's kind of up and down. So not exactly sure why that is. Maybe it's just the rigors of the season. But overall, really happy with it. Wish we can get those two and Emmett in a single game play well. It's still really yet to happen, but be happy with the win and the blowout.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a must-win, man, like must-have game.
Yeah.
Like you said, backs were against the wall, and hopefully they can do that again at least two more times here in these next three games, because they really need to get 2 wins, in my opinion, to try to, if they want to get into March.
Actually, this is a question I thought of myself last night. What would you rather have? Would you rather have the Kansas win or the other 2 games? And which one looks better on your resume? So you beat Kansas, you get to 17 wins, which is probably going to get us in, right? If we beat Kansas. I think we're probably in if we win that game. But you lose 2 straight to end it, right? That would be what that means. So what would you rather have, the Kansas win or the 2 down the stretch? Interesting question.
Yeah, it is, and you beat me to it, man. You sucker. I was thinking the exact same thing earlier when I knew we were going to do this. I was thinking, what do we want to talk about? And I was thinking, if we beat Kansas at Kansas, number 3 team in the country, does that get us in? That might
Good
be all
question.
we need, really.
We didn't talk about what we were going to talk about, so I apologize.
No,
we always
right.
do this.
That's what makes
this
it fun.
is. We shouldn't be surprised by now. You think very much the same.
That's right.
When it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm gonna adjust my camera here. This is live. It's the beauty of live TV, baby.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
Mountaineer Larry with Kenny.
What's up, Mountaineer Larry with Kenny? Sorry to hear you've been sick, my brother. But yeah, Tre Mitchell, man, if we can get him and Erik, like you said, going at the same time, it's going to be a hard team to beat, man. It really is, especially if they can defend like they were last night. Which, according to Huggins, is really what won, and the players too in their post-game pressers. That's they all agree that really their defense is what won them that game, not their offense.
Right. Now, do you think, because I heard them say throughout the broadcast that Oklahoma State is what you would call a limited team, very similar to a Huggins team on offense. So are we overreacting to this defensive performance? Because according to the play-by-play guys, Oklahoma State's not very good on offense.
Right. Well, and we could be, and that's why I say I hate to overreact at all. Some of these games, I overreact when we lose and overreact when we win most of the time. So
yeah, right. I'm not saying that that's the case, by the way. I'm just posing the question.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I mean?
No, it's a fair question.
At the end of the day, they won. They had 16 wins. They had beaten some of the better teams in the conference. 7-7 in conference. We would kill for that record.
Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently their defense was, which we saw it the first time we played, extremely elite defensively. And they just haven't had it for whatever reason. Like, you get down the stretch, and man, kids are tired. These kids are tired right now. I mean, they really truly are. On every team.
Right. It's that time of year.
Yeah. So that's why you see when the tourney time comes around, all that everybody's rejuvenated. They've had some time to rest.
Right. Well, until you're not traveling, even though they do the conference tournaments, all the games are in one place, so you don't have to do a lot of traveling.
Right.
That's why I think West Virginia actually has a chance to win some games in the Big 12 tournament. Honestly,
it's very possible. Yeah, neutral site.
Right. I like our chances on a neutral site better than I do on the road, true road game.
As long as we don't play Kansas, I think they're the only team that truly. I mean, you can maybe you could say Kansas State as well. That really doesn't have. That's not really there in Kansas City. It's not really a road environment for them, is it?
No, I'm not a big fan of having the game in Kansas City or the tournament in Kansas City, to be honest. I know the diehard Big 12 people, I shouldn't say diehards, but the ones that have been in the Big 12 for a long time, the legacy Big 12 members, I guess you could call them.
Yeah.
The Kansases, the Kansas States, the Iowa States, the Baylors, those guys. They all like having it in Kansas City from what I can tell on social media. But because I have heard from even some of the West Virginia media folks that they put on a great tournament. They do a really good job of doing it, and it's a really fun city. But it's basically a home game for Kansas, and then Kansas State, right behind them. So
yeah,
I don't see how it's fair to the rest of the league, but nobody seems to care. I don't know.
I guess let me throw this one at you. So let's say when we were in the Big East, obviously Madison Square Garden was where we played our tournament, right? Wouldn't want to play anywhere else. I mean, where else would you want to play? It's the best there is. But let's say we added some teams out in the Midwest that had to travel out that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that game, a lot of people would say that's a home game for Syracuse, right? Back then.
Right.
It was a big complaint. And Syracuse was probably the top of the league back in those days, almost every year. They were really good. So what would you say on the flip side, being a legacy, well, not quite a legacy, but almost a legacy Big East? How would you feel being, you know what I'm saying? If somebody was saying, well, it doesn't need to be in Madison Square Garden. Just curious, try to put myself in their shoes. I wonder how that would have felt,
Yeah. Makes sense.
I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I mean to ramble.
It did. I think they should have it at a site that's away from like have it in Vegas or,
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Somewhere that's, that's a long
or
trip
even better. Well, I don't want to say even better, but where does the Big Ten do theirs? Indianapolis?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Indy would be a great place because that's usually where a lot of the NCAA tournament games are played at.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, everyone smash the like button, please, like WVU Mountaineer Lair with Kenny suggested. That really helps us out. And I forgot to put this up on the screen earlier. Is
Kenny still putting content out?
I think he said he's been really sick, so probably not.
Okay. Well, if Kenny gets back to it, everybody go smash his like button and go watch Kenny, man. He puts some good food up there too. I've seen him put them slaw dogs he made up, and they look good.
Absolutely. Real quick, let's look at the stats. The team stats that I've got on the screen.
Yeah.
Well, if I can get back to them here, I'm having technical difficulties.
They're on the screen.
Yeah, but I can't read them.
Oh, you want me to?
I've got it. No, I've got it minimized. Let's try it again. Now, they up there now?
Yeah, I see them.
Once again, the beauty of live TV, folks. All right, here we go. What team stats? Oklahoma State was 20 of 52 shooting, 38.5%. West Virginia was 29 for 66, 43.9%. 3-point percentage. Wow. Oklahoma State shot 10.5% from three. Holy cow. No wonder
What was it? 10 or 2?
10.5. 10.5. 2 out of 19. And meanwhile, West Virginia shot 41%. 7 of 17. Free throws. What's that?
I was just saying, look at the production from you've got Thompson and Asberry, but nobody else scored for them really. I mean,
and Caleb Boone was out most of the game with foul trouble, which was a huge. That was huge for us.
I agree. And Cisse didn't have the job. He didn't do it at the rim. He didn't have near the impact that he did in Oklahoma State.
Right. Free throw percentage, 73.5 for Oklahoma State, 80 for West Virginia. They continue to shoot good from the line. West Virginia won 39-37 in rebounds. I thought they won by more than that in rebounding, to be honest, but it was only by 2. Assists, it was 12-7 West Virginia. Steals, 9-7 West Virginia. Blocks, 4-2 Oklahoma State. Total turnovers, 18 turnovers for Oklahoma State. Another huge difference.
And once again, only 9 for West Virginia.
And I think West Virginia had 20-some points off of those turnovers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
And of course, West Virginia at one time led by 23 points.
It's the same formula every time we win a game.
Yep.
High free throw percentage, low turnovers. It seems to go well for us, as it would any team. But it seems like every game we've won, I look, and those are the telling stats. You know, Huggins teams in the past, we've turned it over at a high rate and still won a lot of basketball games.
Yeah.
This team, when they turn it over, not winning a lot of games.
Yeah. Cole says they couldn't buy a bucket. I was there. I could have hit more threes from my seat.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But anyway, as far as individual stats go, I'm not going to share those. I'll just read them off. But obviously, Erik Stevenson had 23. He had a big night scoring. Tre was right behind him with 22 points.
Yep.
And Emmett, I think, had double digits too.
Who?
Emmett. No, he had 9. I'm sorry. Emmett had 9.
Yeah.
It was Kedrian. Kedrian had 12. He was the other one in double digits.
Yeah.
So 3. I mean, if you
get only 27 minutes.
I know. Think about that. If you could get 23, 22, and 12 out of those 3 every single game, how many games does this team win?
Probably 25, I would say. 23, 25, somewhere there. Definitely a top 4 seed. But I'll be happy with I'll tell you what, we'll be one of the most dangerous 12 seeds in history if that's where we are. Yeah. I believe that with all my heart. And maybe Pitt is a better basketball team. I'm not saying they're not, but we still spanked them by 25.
They're not better than us, dude. There's no way.
And they're not. And I hope we play them in the tournament. I would give my last dollar to see us play them in the tournament. I would, just to see them cry.
I mean, did you hear what the announcer said last night? He was even talking about how West Virginia, if they were in another league, would be a top 3 team. And he even specifically mentioned the ACC.
Sure, he did.
He said West Virginia would be the 3rd best team in the ACC right now.
Yeah.
Or he said top 3 team. He didn't say 3rd best. He said top 3. So.
Yeah, right.
Or something along that line.
We basically, if you just want to average it out into a team that we played this year, we basically play a team similar to Xavier every night, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pretty much. You know, they're probably a top 15 team. Every single win we've had almost that was the quad win has been a top 15 win. It's wild, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how we lost that game in Xavier, but it bothers me because I feel like we were better that day.
Yeah, it was just one of those days, man.
Yeah.
Things didn't go their way.
No.
When you look at rebounding, you had 3 guys with 5. You had Jimmy Bell Jr., Emmett Matthews, and Erik Stevenson all had 5 rebounds. Oh, and Conquo also had 5. So we had 4 guys with 5 rebounds. So really balanced in that regard.
And that's fine.
Yeah, and Keedy also had 3 steals.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rebounding, I mean, it's team rebounding, and that's what you need. But Caleb Asberry had 15 for Oklahoma State, and Thompson had 14.
Asberry really played well, I felt
He
like.
He did. Losing Newton hurt them too, I think. When he went out with that technical foul.
Yeah, it hurt him, but it was late, and he hadn't played well.
That's true. He still played 22 minutes.
I know, Mark. I do need the toboggan, don't I? Yeah. Or I just need to get a haircut. This right here.
Oh, I see it now. Let's get the hair out of your eyes.
Yeah. Me and Couz were already running late, and I couldn't find my hat. I'm a bachelor. I live by myself. So my house is, sometimes I'll go a few days without cleaning it. So, sometimes stuff's buried here or there, and it's a what do people call them? It's a mess, but I know where stuff is.
Yeah.
And that's how my house is. But that's the reason it's in my eyes today.
And by the way, it was my fault we were late, not Paul's, guys. I don't want him to take the blame for my mistakes, but I'm out of town, and I had to go out and I had to run out and get some dinner, and I didn't take into consideration the rush hour traffic that I was going to deal with. And I'm not in a big city. I'm in Johnson City, Tennessee, but there's still some traffic.
That reminds me of that Kenny Chesney song, Johnson City, Tennessee.
It's Darius Rucker, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah, it is.
And he's actually not the
like Kenny Chesney.
He's actually not the original singer. It was, oh, my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Some bluegrass group, I think, originally sang it. But I've traveled through all the towns mentioned in that song pretty much. They're all in my sales territory for work. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent. Gamecock Chuck's on here.
What's up, Gamecock Chuck?
Thanks for hopping on, man. Good, puts out some good South Carolina content.
Sure enough does.
Speaking of which, your all's women's team's kicking butt again, man.
Elia Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Leah Boston. Man, she's good.
For the Gamecock women's team.
Well, yeah. If we had a women's team that was that good, we would probably cover them too.
I think
I just don't have time.
Yeah, it's too tough. Too tough, man. Yeah, as you guys can see, you can probably tell in my background I'm in a hotel tonight. But so I'm not in my normal studio, but anyway, anything else you want to talk about the game or about the basketball team overall, Paul?
Yeah, I just got a question for everybody in the chat. Guys, 2 questions for you. What do you think West Virginia is going to go down the stretch? 3 games to go. And if you could choose Kansas or the other 2 games, Kansas State and Iowa State, who do you pick? What win signifies more? Would beating the number 1 team in the country, Kansas, mean more? Or would beating 2 top 25 teams and losing to Kansas mean more in the committee's eyes and on our resume? Really interested to see. Now, obviously, one of those things mean we win 17 games. The other means we win 18. But a win over Kansas may hold more weight at 17 wins. I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, Gamecock Chuck says 1 and 2. Cole D says 2 and 1. I take a Kansas win on the road than the other 2.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, it is a tough call. And by the way, anybody who's watching this on the replay, I want you guys can answer it as well.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be live. You guys put in the comment section as well. Would you rather have a Kansas win on the road and lose the other 2? Would you rather lose to Kansas and win the other 2? I really think, and I could be totally wrong, and I'm obviously not Joe Lunardi, but or any of the experts, but I really think if we beat Kansas on the road, assuming the other 2 games aren't complete blowouts, we may get in.
I agree.
Only problem is losing to K-State at home wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be a good look. Kansas State's not a bad team. It's just losing at home is never a good thing. David Cummings says, "How about we win
Well, yeah, that's like
2 of 3?"
probably the best case scenario.
Oh yeah, we're definitely in then.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. I mean, obviously winning all 3, but I don't think anybody expects us, even us, to win all 3. We're capable. I don't think it's not that, but the odds of it happening are super low, being that Kansas is involved. The other 2 games are very winnable. We've already thumped Iowa State, but we're going to Ames.
Tough place.
Kansas State's at home. Yeah, Ames is the toughest place to play in the conference, right?
Outside
I think
of Kansas,
most people would agree with that.
Outside of Kansas,
I even think when Iowa State's really good, I think they rival even Kansas. But but really everywhere has a chance to be a great atmosphere in the Big 12 outside of TCU. I haven't seen much there, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
I could go on and on about it, really.
Oh yeah, same here, man.
Cole D said he hates the fog.
Oh yeah, everybody does. I will tell you this though, it'd be cool to see a game there one time, just to experience it.
Sure, it's history. It's almost like you're being put under a spell. Have you ever heard the Rock Chalk Jayhawk? You ever heard it before? They chant it. It's unusual. It's not like there's not a whole lot of energy in it at first. It sounds like you're in a seance or something.
Right.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. It's really slow and weird, man. Don't laugh at me.
I'm not. I just didn't know how long you were going to go on. You're going to put me into a trance.
For a while, I'd actually planned on singing it a couple more times. Just kidding.
Cole says the Dean Dome is more sacred to him as an MJ fan. Yeah, nothing wrong with the Dean Dome, and obviously Cameron Indoor is another historic place. I don't know. Well, this is not a hot take. I think it's a pretty popular take, actually. I think if West Virginia gets into the tournament, they can make the Sweet 16. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, assuming we don't run into any other Big 12 teams.
Right. I was going to say it depends on the matchups, obviously. But
yeah.
Because outside of the Big 12, I mean, even Erik Stevenson said the other day, one of his press conferences, he said, me and my teammates were talking the other day, how we would just love to play somebody that's not in our league.
Right. And I'm sure everybody in the league feels that way.
Yeah, even they know how brutal it is. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's easy. The other games aren't easy, but it's almost a relief for them to play somebody else. The Auburn game was probably a relief for them a little bit,
Yeah.
Not that Auburn's bad. I don't mean any disrespect to Auburn, but
they let it wire to wire.
It's just another animal, man. Just a different animal.
And then Auburn went and beat Alabama, who's a top 5 team, just not even a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
I think they did. They were winning that game.
I think they ended up losing it, but it was close.
Oh, okay.
But still, they're a good team. They were 11th in the country,
Yeah.
It's not like we beat a I don't know, think of it Stony Brook again, or
Yeah, right.
Towson or whoever.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, I got to ask you this, Paul. I know you're not big on conference realignment, but would you like to have Gonzaga in the Big 12 or no?
I think it comes with, history's already there. Precedent's already been set of what this kind of move can do. But we had heard in the past, when this first came out, I did a video on it, and you did too. Yeah. This is probably going to be a one-off, right? We were told, because don't get worried about this becoming a basketball conference only, because Gonzaga is only going to be a one-off. Well, that doesn't sound like that's the case anymore. We're here in Villanova, St. John's. We've heard every name that has a great basketball tradition. Arizona, you can just name them down the list. Mm-hmm. And so you start to wonder, is this going to be a Big East type scenario? I think both can exist, but it just gives me I'm just a little trepidation there. To answer your question, though, at the end of the day, I do trust Brett Yormark. And if he's making this decision, I don't think he would do it if it would hurt football.
Yeah.
But I think he has a goal that he's trying to make basketball more credible, more popular, more money. Mm-hmm. If he can pull that off, then we've got a chance to compete with the Big Ten and SEC, but not sure how that's going to happen. But yeah, to answer your question, at the end of the day, I think Gonzaga would be a good ad.
Yeah, here's the way I look at it. If you start putting all the, me, I like to put pieces together, right?
Yeah.
You take different storylines. You've got the fact that they're looking at Gonzaga as a basketball-only member, right? Then you hear the rumors about them looking at other schools. Well, you had Bob Huggins and Scott Drew going with Brett Yormark to New York City to do a quote-unquote media blitz. I'll be honest with you. I think there was more to it than that. Just my opinion. Then you got, and I could be grasping for straws here, but and then you hear Brett Yormark on an interview the other day say he wants the basketball is more valuable than what they're getting paid for it. And he wasn't talking about just the Big 12. He was just talking about in general, college basketball in general.
Right.
And he wants to find a way to monetize it. And he goes on to talk about how he's a huge basketball fan. He went to the University of Indiana because he loved the sport of basketball, and they were good back then. I mean, his past career with the Brooklyn Nets. I just think if you put all this together, I think all these rumors we're hearing out there about him going to the West Coast and all this, he's probably talking about basketball teams. He might not even be talking about football teams. At the end of the day, I think he wants to do something that's going to differentiate the Big 12 and all the other conferences. And the only way to do that is with basketball, in my opinion.
You're talking about like making a super, super, super conference in basketball?
Yeah, right. Like have 20 teams or something.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if I like the idea. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Right.
As a West Virginia fan, I like it in some cases and I don't like it in others. Yeah. But at the same time, if it can bring the conference more money without causing friction amongst the schools, now that's what worries me too. Then maybe it's not a bad deal. But anyway, I just think there's too much going on out there related to basketball for there not to be something brewing, if that makes sense.
There's a question for you.
What record gives Neil Brown a contract extension, and is it worth it long term? Oh, my gosh, an extension? I think he'd have to win 10 games to get an extension probably.
Yeah.
Because his contract's through 2026.
Yeah.
So he still has a few years left. 10 games probably gets him an extension. 10 wins. Maybe
and even
9,
then,
I doubt it.
And even then, I think it would depend on how he won the 10 games. You look at how TCU won. There's a lot of people that think TCU is going to take a major step back this coming year. I'm one of them because they won, 7 games that were one score or less.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they weren't a good team and not that that's not a skill to win those close games, but to think that they wouldn't lose 2 or 3 of those in another year.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to your Gonzaga. I do think they're a great, and it may be one of those things that we regret if we don't pick them up even, but being that we're from the Big East and what happened there, I think we have that always in the back of our minds. If that had never happened to us, there would be no reason not to do it. So I feel like that, there's history on it. Brett Yormark probably knows how to avoid it. Maybe, and both can be true. Like I said, football and basketball can both be strong. They just may not be the strongest in football. So
right. Well, we're not going to catch the SEC in the Big Ten. There's no way around it. And I think
not
Brett
unless
Yormark,
I agree.
And Brett Yormark's smart enough to realize that. So what can the Big 12 do to be different? What makes them stand out? It's basketball.
Right.
Now, he also wants to be a coast-to-coast conference. That would be another way to stand out. But it's looking less and less likely that's going to happen in football because of, I'm here, which I'm going to talk. I'm actually going to be going live on my channel here a little bit later on Couz's Corner, but talk about realignment. But there's news broke today that I still think at the end of the day, the Pac-12 is going to end up getting some kind of deal. It may not be a deal they like, but I think it'll be enough to keep them together.
I do too.
Because I think deep down, none of them really want to break the conference up and leave. And they're going to do whatever
outside
they
of
can.
Maybe Arizona.
Maybe, yeah. But even if they leave, they probably can't go by themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody leaves on their own without a partner.
Right.
Closest focusing on basketball, coast to coast, would be sick. I'm sorry, I know football brings in the money, but 20 teams in basketball would be a pretty penny. It would, but there again, when you got if you go out and add, let's just say 8 of those 20 schools are basketball only, like Gonzaga, Villanova, Georgetown, St. John's, just for shits and giggles. You're going to have 8 teams in that league that are always going to feel like second fiddle to everybody else, and they're not going to be happy at the end of the day. I don't think. Because that's kind of what happened with the Big East was different. They were a basketball conference that brought in football schools, and the basketball schools always wanted to run the show. Pretty much, at least that's the way I understand it. But in this case, it would probably be the opposite. The football teams would be running the show. But things have changed so much since then too. I mean, basketball was a lot more popular back then than it is now. So. Maybe they would get that or understand that.
What do you mean college basketball? Because the NBA is as popular as ever.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, college football is probably more. College football is making a lot more money now than it did back then.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
As far as the gap between football and basketball and revenue is probably.
Have you read why that is? The gap, because the March Madness tournament there's enough money there to make way more money than we do in basketball. And I've heard it's like a contract that they've made with the media rights companies. Is that how it works?
Yeah, but you know why? Because all that money goes to the NCAA.
That's what it was. I knew it was something like
that.
Not
all of it. I mean, the schools get a piece, but the NCAA gets most of it. That's the NCAA's moneymaker. That's really the only revenue stream the NCAA has.
Right.
Now, Bob Huggins wants to Power 5 conferences, or I guess it'd be Power 6 in this case in basketball, maybe. And maybe it wouldn't have to be. I don't know. But he wants the power conferences to separate from the NCAA and have their own tournament. I've heard him say that in a press conference before. And get away from the NCAA altogether.
Well, if that's what Yormark's got up his sleeve, then
because the money. And I've got some Tony Yormark actually sent me some data on that a while back on how much money's on the table. And guess what conference would benefit the most from that?
The Big 12.
The Big 12, because they get more teams they get a higher percentage of their teams in the tournament.
Right.
And every team you get in the tournament is money for your league.
Yeah.
And every round they win a game is even more money for your league. So if you get 8, if the Big 12 gets 8 teams in the tournament, all 8 of those teams are making revenue for the Big 12, and for every round they win is another. I'm not sure the exact number, but let's just use $1 million for a round number. Every round is another $1 million to the league,
right?
And they don't get it just for it's $1 million a year for the next 6 years or something like. It's some kind of. It ain't just like if you get in a tournament, the league makes money off of you for the next 6 years from one tournament appearance.
Wow.
So when you get a team that makes the tournament, like Kansas, that makes the tournament every single year.
Very valuable.
Absolutely.
Now, here's one thing you'd have to worry about a little bit is you bring that up, how valuable Kansas is in basketball. They're basically what? Ohio State when it comes to basketball as far as value goes.
That's a pretty good comparison, I would say.
Yeah. So if somehow they do monetize basketball to this degree, how do we know the Big Ten doesn't open their arms and say, "Come on, Kansas," and then try to shut that down before Yormark can flip it to where we're competitive with them,
Oh yeah.
And that's something you worry about.
Well, and that's funny because I've actually got a video planned about that issue, about that topic, for my football channel about Kansas going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I've been planning it for several days. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and do it yet because of all this realignment stuff that keeps popping up. And there's nothing to cover about West Virginia, so I got to talk about something, right?
Yeah. Listen, I don't, you know, Couz, I don't have an issue at all talking to players, getting a hold of players, and it is dead quiet right now. Players
Thank you,
will
Cole.
not answer.
Thank you, Cole, man. Thanks for helping
Hey,
out, brother.
thanks, Cole. Players will not answer. I mean, I have done everything I can outside of offering them money to offer to answer me, you know, because I never usually have time. I mean, I have no trouble usually.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't get content that way. That's like one of my main sources of content. So like you said, right now it's rough.
They might be nervous about it because it's the quiet period,
It's the quiet period,
and they don't want to. Even though you're not affiliated with the university, they probably don't want.
They
to
don't know that.
Right?
Yeah, they don't know that,
and they may not want to take the risk. Bo, I'm going to be doing a live stream on the Couz's Corner channel here at about 8:00, and that'll be one of the topics. So tune in, man, if you're able.
What's up, John Kelly?
Gamecock Chuck says everyone smash the like button. Got John Kelly, another loyal listener on here, says, "What's going on, guys?" Cole put a comment in before he left. He says, "I see your point, but I mean make an honest attempt by keeping them happy and see how it goes. Transparency and commitment can go a long way." Yeah, he was talking about the basketball, 20-team basketball conference. What if you make a whole separate wing of the conference for basketball?
That's an interesting topic.
Now, obviously, the teams that play football couldn't be in it. They'd have to do so that wouldn't work, man, because they'd have to play against each other. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah.
What if they completely take over the Big East and call it the Big 12 East?
Call it something, right?
I'm turning into Golden Blue dude. Sorry.
Oh my God.
And I didn't mean that as an offense to Golden Blue dude, by the way. I have nothing against him. That's just the kind of ideas he can come up with.
Right. If you guys want to support the channel, right now we're not monetized. We are working our way towards 1,000 subscribers. We've only had this channel open since the beginning of the basketball season. So we'll have Couz put his whatever down in the comments there. And can you do that, Couz? You got a computer on you?
Yeah.
And if you want to make if you can or are able to make a donation towards the channel, we'd appreciate that. If you're not able to, it's all good. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave us a comment if you're watching this video after the fact. But we will try to tag his Cash App or whatever it is down there. If you're able to help the channel at all, we'd appreciate it. But raiding the Big East is be kind of ironic for us, wouldn't it, to do?
Yeah, and actually, if they go out and grab like Villanova and teams like that, that's basically what they're doing.
Well, I mean, they really make a lot of money in basketball too. Villanova does. They're actually one of the biggest on the East Coast. They make a ton of money in basketball, which obviously they have a football team, but it's not very good. I don't know if people know that. Pretty sure Villanova has a football team, don't they?
They're FCS.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because we played them, didn't we? A few years back.
Yeah, we did. I'm trying to remember when that was. I think it was it under Dana or Rich? I think it was under Dana.
Yeah, it was under Dana. Pretty sure. I don't think it worries me about basketball schools. It's a full conference vote. Right. Yeah, Bo, we brought that up before you came in, I think. Not sure, but
it was before he came in.
We have those same, or I do have those same fears. But at this point in time, I think we just kind of have to trust your mark a little bit. I think he's proven that he's earned some of that trust from us. He's definitely got us out of hot water. There was not a whole lot of people that wanted this commissioner job, based on where the thing was. And he's been really creative and brought us up out of some bad spots. You know, we could easily be the situation the Pack has been in, or at least on as uneasy and he jumped in. He got the deal done fast. Got ahead of pack. That was one of the smartest things that anybody could have done. I didn't even know that was possible. So, anyway, point being, I think we can trust Yormark to make good choices for us for both basketball, football, and the other sports.
Yeah, I agree. And I've got for those of you who haven't been watching the chat room, I've got my Venmo, my PayPal, and my Cash App tags all in the chat box there. And anything you send to that, Paul would obviously get a piece of it, or half of it. So, since he and I are partners on this channel, at some point we need to start a I don't know, Patreon or something.
Yeah.
For people to be able to donate money to. But for now,
Agreed.
That works. Because if you send me money, then all I got to do is shoot it over to Paul through Cash App or Venmo or whatever, real quick. It's quick and easy.
Yeah.
John, great point, John. He says Catholic schools voted as a block probably busted one of the best basketball mega conferences in history. Absolutely, they did. Tony Altamore keeps joking on Twitter. Did we not learn the lesson? He says West Virginia fans need to have a sit down with all the rest of the Big 12 and teach them a history lesson.
Yeah,
that's the truth, man.
Jamie Dixon would know a little something about that too at TCU.
He would. Yep.
And there's probably many other assistant coaches and things like that that know in the Big 12. But it's definitely a fear, but fear never gets you anywhere, right? If you'll do that fear-based mentality, and I think Yormark is a goal-oriented guy, and I don't think he's going to be afraid of anything. And he'll do his due diligence. So he is out. He's a fish out of water in some areas as a commissioner. He's not the conventional. He didn't work his way into this role conventionally. As unconventional as Oliver Luck was, Yormark is really unconventional to land a job like this. So,
absolutely.
He's done an excellent job, though. No, I mean it's similar to hiring a Donald Trump as far as just the kind of person Yormark has been outside of this, as far as on the business side of things.
Yeah.
Just a deal maker kind of guy. Maybe that was a bad comparison because obviously morally, I don't think they're very similar. But
you're talking strictly from a business perspective.
Yeah,
I get it. So nobody get mad and unsubscribe, please.
Right. Well, it's not like I know much about Trump's history on the business side.
I get it.
The comparison I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I know exactly.
I'm not a politics guy at all.
I know what you were trying to say, but
sometimes my lack of politics knowledge hurts me.
I mentioned Donald Trump on a video. This was back early on in my channel. I did a video, and all I did was mention Donald Trump's name. And I had people pissed off at me. I ended up putting the video on private because I mentioned his name.
That's
how bad it. I mean, that's how bad it was. But anyway,
I love that right there.
I say if they're halfway in the conference, they get a half a vote. That makes sense.
That's pretty smart. Yeah.
But would they join? If for enough money, they would join probably.
Sure, they would. Listen, man, if he can, let's say he can double what they make, even, they'll jump out of there probably wherever they're at, Obviously, that's why basketball only is the ad there, because a team like Arizona, who has I would say a team that's almost as consistent as what Kansas is, close, would not leave for basketball only reasons. Obviously, they've got to have it on the football side too. So,
or you can make it, John Kelly brought up a good point. Or says Mike Tranghese, I think the name was, football side was only 8 teams, yet we had US at us, Pitt, Louisville, Cincinnati, Syracuse, USF, Rutgers. Those WVU Louisville games were fun, as well as many backyard brawls. Then that got me to thinking, if you bring in 8 basketball only schools, you're still going to have a 12-8 vote. So you could set the bylaws up where anything that, a majority vote wins, or 12-8 vote wins, or 14-6, whatever. You come up with something that makes sense to where the football is still going to be the priority. You know what I'm saying? And you never put yourself in a situation where the basketball's only schools can dictate the conference's decisions. That's what you got to do. In the case John's talking about in the Big East, there were more basketball schools than football schools, I think. So it was easy for the basketball schools to take the conference in the direction they wanted, which wasn't best for football, which was not best for making money, right?
Right.
So, and the Big East makes good. But the Big East makes. I did some research on this one time and never did do a video on it because we hadn't started this channel yet, and I didn't want to do a basketball video at the time. But the Big East makes a lot of money in basketball. Believe it or not, they do pretty well. Yeah, they do. Nothing like the football conferences are making. Don't get me wrong.
It's like 6 or 7 million, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change. Whereas you look at like the West Coast Conference, I think the West Coast Conference as a whole only makes like a couple million or something. The whole conference. And Gonzaga gets like almost half that. You know what I'm saying? They pretty much get a huge chunk of the share. Is my understanding. I think the average team in the West Coast Conference makes about $300,000 ballpark in revenue.
Yeah, I saw that. Question for you. Do you think there's any ill will towards those basketball only schools that voted for the Big East to disband? Just for some of these guys in positions of power possibly that might be tempted to give an olive branch to these schools?
Probably not, because I'd say there's different people in charge now than what there was back then in most cases. I mean, I don't know about in all cases, but I mean, no, in West Virginia, you've got different people in charge.
Yeah. But it's still there. It still goes. I feel like it still travels with a little bit.
I'm sure it does some. I'm sure there are certain things people will never forget, and that's probably one of them. And I never did hear all the details around what happened exactly. All I heard was that the voting, the basketball schools were basically dominating everything and not giving the football schools. And I don't know what ended up, and I guess that's what caused all the football schools to start leaving the conference.
Yeah,
which led to it, basically becoming a basketball only conference, and they went out and grabbed some more teams, but to keep it afloat. But I don't know the details of what they were voting on and all that stuff is what I'm saying. But it was basically, from what I understand, the Catholic schools who were kind of running the show, so to speak.
Figures. Yeah.
But in Georgetown, St. John's, Villanova,
Notre
Dame in that case. Yeah, Notre Dame. I forgot about Notre Dame, but being in the conference at that time.
Yeah. One of our biggest rivals, Luke Herringody.
No, we had some battles with Notre Dame, dude.
Surely did. They surely did. Remember, I
hated losing to Notre Dame, man.
Mike Bray and that slick back hair.
He's still there, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he looks a lot older now. You remember their point guard they had, Quinn? Probably not, but I do. Man, he was good. It was him and Herringody. Quinn. Last name Quinn, like Brady Quinn.
I think I do, yeah. It rings a bell.
And then they had Luke Herringody. I mean, they were tough. You hear my cat going crazy?
Yeah. Speaking of pet stories, we had to take my dog to the vet today to get her teeth cleaned.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
They hate it.
Well, I mean, they put them under, but I'm sure she wasn't enjoying herself. And I texted my wife over to check on her. She said she's doing good, but they had to pull 4 of her teeth. So she's probably not feeling real good right now.
Oh, poor puppers.
And poor check.
I hate to be a stickler on Mr. Kelly, but that's 70-33, sir. But yeah, you're right. We did blow him out.
Yeah.
The reason I know that is because in the past, I don't use it anymore. I used to score that game as a password for a long time.
Really?
To like my debit card. So yeah, for like 10 years after that game. Yeah.
That's cool.
The score of the Orange Bowl was like It's ingrained into my memory forever.
Yeah.
70-33.
He says the Big East tournament in the Garden was spectacular. Yeah, it was for sure.
Yes, it was.
But anyway,
You
I don't
probably
really
you haven't even eaten dinner yet, have you?
Hey, let me show you something. You see that right there?
Yeah. Daggone, son. Was that Chinese?
Panda Express,
Oh, yeah.
baby.
Never had it.
My family won't eat it. So I'm out of town for work, and we don't have one at home. So I'm thinking, I said, you know what, by God, I'm eating Panda Express tonight because I don't have nobody to tell me no. So
That's awesome.
I drove 10 minutes down the road. I got a Mexican restaurant right. Usually when I stay here, there's a Mexican restaurant right next door to the hotel that I'll just walk to. But tonight I decided to get me some Panda Express.
Nice.
That's what made me late.
Okay. Well, I'll allow that.
And I wolfed it down in about 10 minutes. 15 minutes, actually. John says he likes that stuff too. Oh, I love Panda Express, man.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I love the frozen. They sell them at Walmart, Kroger, the Taipei frozen rice. They're like in a carton. I love them. I probably eat them 3 or 4 times a week sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I like Chinese food, but Panda Express is my absolute favorite. Theirs tastes better than any I've ever had for some reason.
Yeah.
Panda Express, if you're listening to this, I need a sponsorship deal here. Okay.
Yeah.
Panda Express. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Yeah.
Taken right from Bret the Hitman Hart.
Right from Bret Hart.
Yeah. We should do a wrestling podcast, Paul.
I would love it. Yeah.
With Outlaw College Football, he's a big wrestling guy, which I don't watch it anymore.
Is he really?
Yeah, I don't watch it anymore. But
no, but we could talk about the history of it.
Oh, dude.
We had to brush up on it.
Sometimes I'll sit and watch YouTube videos of old matches, man. Like
oh man.
Goldberg,
dude, I love watching them come out.
Yeah, Goldberg and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Rock, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Undertaker. Wrestling has lost its luster for me, man. But man, I used to be when I was a kid, dude, I lived it and breathed it, man. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I did too. I wanted to be a wrestler when I got older.
In the mid 90s, when we were both kids, I would say teenager.
I was a teenager, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Close. But that was right around the Attitude Era. Those were good times,
Yes.
Really good times.
Well, I actually lost. I was a huge fan back in the 80s.
NWO for life, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somehow or another around mid 90s, I lost interest, or early 90s. Early 90s, I lost interest. And then right around the late 90s, I started getting interested again, like around 97-ish, 98-ish, during when the Attitude Era was just really getting started. Yeah. I got interested in it again. And this is a cool story. Of course, I'm bald. I've been bald since I wasn't bald at the time. Let me back up a minute. I wasn't bald at the time. I was already losing my hair, but I didn't shave it. Well, I meet my wife, and I go to pick her up for our date, and I walk in her bedroom, and and my favorite wrestler was Stone Cold Steve Austin. I walk in her bedroom, and she has a Stone Cold Steve Austin poster on her wall, dude.
Oh, you knew he was in there.
Oh, I said, dude, I am marrying you. I said, I don't think I said that out loud, but I was thinking it. I said, that is freaking awesome. I love it. I'm going to marry this girl. But anyway, she liked him too, and she thought he was hot. Well, fast forward a few years, I ended up shaving my head, not because of Stone Cold. I just ended up shaving it because I was losing it anyway. But anyway, I just thought that was a funny story. Now she hates wrestling. She wants nothing to do with it.
You ought to go in there for your next anniversary. Wear you some black spandex underwear. Go in there with some knee-high boots and bang a few beers together. Go in the bedroom.
If I actually like beer, I might do that. I can't even stand the smell of it, man.
Funnier now. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't drink either.
I like a mixed drink, but I never did acquire the taste for beer, man. I don't like it. It says Mankind versus Undertaker in the Hell in the Cell was best match ever. That was a quality match, man.
Yeah, this was a 5-star match. They say.
Outlaw thinks Mankind is overrated.
Well, it's because what his shtick was.
Because he said he basically had to do tricks and fall off of stuff to get famous.
Right.
Hey, I didn't do it. I didn't have the balls to do it.
Well, there are some people that value the technical side of wrestling, like Ric Flair, and what he was able to bring, and all the different cool stuff there. Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, those kind of guys that really good in the ring. Mankind was a lumbering, more athletic than you thought, but I wouldn't consider him to be like The Rock or somebody athletic like that, or Goldberg. But I basically landed on, he'd jump on thumbtacks and get his teeth knocked out, get choke slammed through the cell, thrown off the cell. That was his shtick, and he whether it was Dude Love, Mankind, whoever it was, Cactus Jack, he was always getting beat on chairs, to the point he's almost crippled today. But some people don't think that's considered real wrestling. That's more of a hardcore style.
Yeah, but I loved it. I loved watching it,
Oh, yeah. Mr. Sacco. And he was good on the mic. That's another thing.
He was good. That's the guys I always gravitated to, except the Ultimate Warrior. I was gravitated to the Ultimate Warrior because of his running to the ring, shaking the ropes.
Good on the mic.
Yeah, he was terrible on the mic. But I liked him in the ring. And I guess his physique and all that. Yeah. He was just different at the time. He was so different than anybody else.
He had the worst finishing move ever, though.
Yeah, I wished I wanted the
pump handle would have been way better.
That should have been his finishing move. I always
should have been his finishing move.
Yeah,
I mean, at least you can justify that knocking somebody out. The splash. I mean, he was a thick guy. He probably weighed 280 pounds, but
that's a fat guy move.
Yeah, that's the fat guy move. It never made any sense to me, or at least Hogan's. You can justify Hulk Hogan's, right?
Kind of. I always thought his was a little cheesy too, to be honest with you, but it was Hulk Hogan, so it didn't matter.
What'd you just say?
I said, I loved Hogan. I mean, his move was. Yeah. I just thought I felt like they could have come up with a better move for him.
I'll tell you who I loved was I love Big Van Vader, dude. I thought he was the coolest.
Hey,
he would do somersaults, backflips
at 300
wild stuff.
400 pounds, really.
400 something pounds, yeah. Have you ever heard those videos where they shoot? They're called so and so shoots on somebody, and a shoot is when they break kayfabe and they talk like they're a real person and they actually tell real stories that happen from behind the scenes and stuff like that. So if you type in like Ric Flair shoots on, and it's whoever's name, I just type them in. Like if I wonder if he ever talked about him, and you type it in. There's a crazy story about. I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was. I think it was Ming. You remember Ming from WCW? He ended up being him and the Barbarian were together. Anyway, apparently he was the most voted toughest guy in the backstage area or whatever in history. If you ever look this up, every single wrestler that's ever been asked this question, and I've typed in at least 100, says that he is by far the toughest dude ever.
Mean,
like in a fight. Yeah, in a fight.
Wow.
He had a different name in WWF. Can't remember what it was.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of his name.
There was also another story, though, where Vader got attacked with a pair of scissors by somebody. And I'm trying to remember who it was. He got stabbed. Somebody that lost it in the back. Macho Man, maybe. Might have been Macho Man. Oh, no, I remember who it was. Sorry. It was the Nasty Boys. Remember the Nasty Boys? Yeah. They got into a real fight and completely knocked out Vader. They sucker punched him with like a lamp.
Silva Mark says nighttime athletic soap opera. That's the reason I quit watching it, Mark, because that's basically what it became. When they started having love stories and having old ladies dating wrestlers and stuff, I'm like, dude, I'm out. This is. And then I got back into it again a few years later because I like CM Punk a lot.
Yeah.
So I started watching him. And then they had the Shield with Roman Reigns and all, but it's just, I just can't. I've tried to sit down and watch it, and I just can't get it. It just doesn't interest me anymore. My wife says I've grown out of it, but your interests just change over time, you know?
They do.
WVU Mountaineer Larry says, tell them to go practice. They will change their mind. I trained with pro wrestling. Oh, I guarantee you it's hard, Kenny. No doubt about it, man. I have no desire to do it. Just, I mean, once I got older and realized what those guys go through, I didn't want to do it anymore. But when I was a kid, you know, watching on TV, you know, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, they have probably a more rigorous schedule than professional baseball players do. You know, because there are 360. I think Triple H said 360 days was the longest he ever went in a year span. You know, so that's only 5 days off of the entire year. But they're chasing that money. You know, and Vince in a lot of cases only pays them. I mean, they get paid really well. But like the mid card and the lower card guys make less than six figures, so they have to work a lot.
Oh, I heard.
You know?
I read Stone Cold's autobiography, dude, and you know he talks about early on before he made it big, he was basically living on bologna. That's all he had to eat.
I'd say.
So I mean, he made like $25 a night, dude.
Yeah.
So
that's rough.
Yeah, but
was that back in the regional era?
Yeah, when he was traveling around doing local shows and stuff. Yeah.
Well, you know, because Vince McMahon, he nationalized the sport.
Right.
Before Vince McMahon came along in the late '80s and with WrestleMania and everything, wrestling was a regional thing, right? There were promotions that owned sections of the country. This is the part of wrestling history I really like. Was when it was those regional and Dusty Rhodes and guys like that were just killing it. Well, Jerry the King Lawler, you know, the Memphis area was like the biggest celebrity in Memphis. It was a pretty cool time.
Yeah, potatoes, Curtis. You're right. It was potatoes. My bad. It was another wrestler I heard talk about bologna, or it may have been bologna and potatoes. But you're right. Yeah, potatoes was part of the deal. But basically, that's all he had to eat every day. But he loved
potatoes. I'm starving right now.
They just had they loved doing it. He loved doing it, and you know he was determined to make it in the business. And lo and behold, now he's a gazillionaire. So
I could eat mashed potatoes every single day, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't like them that much. I do like them, but I don't like them that much.
I can eat them every single day. And shells and cheese.
We got off basketball about 30 minutes ago.
What basketball? Is this the basketball channel?
But this has been a lot of fun. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, this is how you guys get to know us and how we get to know you and some of your interests. And I mean, the chat hasn't really changed a lot. If I just saw a bunch of people dropping out, it's not like we had a ton to begin with.
Yeah.
It's hovered between 14 and 20. So, I mean, it's not like people weren't listening to it, you know?
Yeah, it's cool, man. I think, like you said, people
Stu Hart,
people don't like it, they can drop off. But these are our loyals right here, man. Silver Mark, Bo Stacker. Silver Mark says Rings in the Valley, new name for channel. I like that. That's actually pretty cool for a wrestling channel. Rings in the Valley.
I like it.
I do like it. The squared circle.
The squared circle.
We should introduce our show. We should start going, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Hoops from the Hills.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hoops from the Hills proudly brings to you.
Yeah.
Mountaineer Paul.
Well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene.
Take your vitamins, say your prayers.
Yeah. Can't believe you got away with that for so long.
Yeah. What you gonna do when Couz and Mountaineer Paul run wild on you?
I'll tell you what, Hogan really tarnished his reputation. I don't think he knew it was going to happen, but when he did that reality show, because they got to see first of all, how rich he was. I think not everybody, people knew he was rich, but no, he was that rich. And then his son had that accident, killed the passenger. Do you remember that?
Vaguely,
His daughter,
vaguely.
Hulk Hogan's son killed somebody in the car. And unfortunately, this happened, I think, during the show they were doing. But, yeah, and then obviously his daughter was really hot. And, people were watching just for her. It transitioned from Hulk to her, it seemed like.
Well, she even had her own show after that.
She did, you're right. I don't know what happened to her since then.
I don't either, but he's gotten in some more controversy since then with which I don't even want to get into, but
it was about a sex tape, right?
Sex tape, and he said a racial slur on it or something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or on it was a different tape, I think. He said he made a racial he had gotten back with WWE and was doing some stuff for them, and another tape surfaced of him using a racial slur. So they cut ties with him.
John Kelly gave us a good segue option there. Take it.
Stevenson definitely built up some hype going into Kansas Saturday. Absolutely, he did. If Stevenson can play on the road like he does at home, that's been the problem. He's not been able to replicate his home performances in road games. That's what he needs to do. If he can do that, they got a chance to beat Kansas.
Sure.
But this team goes as Erik Stevenson goes. I mean, we've seen that all year.
Yeah.
And if Erik Stevenson scores single digits or around 10 points but you should say this, if he scores less than 15 points, they're not going to win, in my opinion.
Probably not. Unless Tre has another game like he did.
Yeah.
We need one of them to go off, right?
Yeah.
And it just hadn't been Tre all for 10, 12 games. So
that was my ode to Randy Savage, by the way. Rest in peace to Randy Savage.
Yeah. Agreed.
But anyway, well, listen, I'm going to jump off here. I got to get ready for my other show at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Actually, I got my buddy's about to pull up here. So
okay. So, guys, for those of you on the chat, hop over on my show here in about 30 minutes or so. Paul, thanks for hopping on here with me, brother. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hoops from the Hills is out.
Later, guys.